like I said, are just beautiful. You know, so you can be lounging. And you are taking center stage because this is your show, right?
I guess.
So yeah, really bigger than life. Like if you think you are being too big, I promise you, you're not.
About 11 years ago, I had heard of the infamous Dr. Foster from the University of Akron.
One of the teachers at Central Howard High School, Paulette, U-Rycki, who I never met before, came up to me. She told me she was interested in helping to train urban teachers, and would I be interested in working with her? And I just said yes. Teaching is a daily event. It's like farming. I mean, you know, so kids are real. You know, when I idealize it, when I talk about it, we have this glowing idea that kids are going to be beautiful and just do the Shakespeare. What you're going to see is a step-by-step approach to teaching Shakespeare.
I just engaged. He left. He should be forced to marry me, not Hermia.
When Dr. Foster students come into my classroom, you can see the intimidation and the fear. And to be honest, sometimes there's even a dislike of my students.
When we first started doing this, you know, I was kind of skeptical about it. I didn't know exactly what it was going to be about. I mean, I knew we were going to do work and, you know, they would help us with our writing and stuff.
Didn't really know the Akron U students like at all, so it's kind of weird like meeting them and getting to know what they do.
And the first reaction is these are big scary kids and how am I going to teach them? But once they get to know these kids, it's way different. So it's obvious what happens then. It really truly is. It's an amazing learning experience.
Now where's Helena? Shalise. Shalise loves Demetrius, and in fact they were engaged, but he left her because
that's so mean.
I know, he's cruel. Throughout the whole play, he calls you names.
Can I call him names back?
No, because you love him. So you're chasing him, basically. You're doing what a girl in Athens should never do. You're calling him incessantly.
I do what a girl in Athens
No.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so these are the main characters, but there's a side. Helena chasing Demetrius in the forest where he's being so rude to her and cruel. So Oberon tells Puck that there are two people running through the woods in Athenian clothes.
And this, the cranny, is right and sinister, through which the fearful lovers are to whisper.
They're reading really well. As far as understanding, I don't think they know what they're reading. They're also not really reading with like a lot of enthusiasm or like anything in their voice.
It's good that they're reading. They probably comprehend it more than you think they do. But why don't we go to comprehension today? Paulette's always taught students who are not labeled college prep. So we had kids who were in the general classes. Yet, you know, we felt that they could do a little more than general class students were always accustomed to doing. We always pushed a little more towards what is more traditional in advanced classes, which is a more interesting curriculum, books that really are about something, writing that really engages students.
I didn't think we were going to do Shakespeare. I thought Shakespeare was boring, and I thought Shakespeare didn't have a meaning to it. But after all, it was a great experience.
They've learned the whole play, what it meant. They have read pieces of the whole play together, which is very traditional. They're working in groups, learning in depth over and over again. With some luck, we will see a kid going from not knowing it to knowing it.
If you yield not to your father's choice, you can endure the livery of a nun. For to be in shady cloister mood, to live a barren sister all your life, chanting faint hymns to the cold fruitless moon. Thrice blessed they that master so their blood.
And being done this war, away doth go.
About the 5th or 6th year, we somehow developed a curriculum and we began teaching it. And this curriculum was truly an advanced curriculum. We've always had 3 writing units in the curriculum. We put in a reading workshop. The students in this project read books that were extremely relatable to the lives they were living, and we ended with Shakespeare.
A lot of the things that we think are for gifted students, it's just good teaching, and that our other students need it even more than the gifted. And I think what...
Because when I got involved in it, it helped me to understand the play itself instead of reading it from a book.
It was clear to me as a teacher of Shakespeare that my students understood it better if they read it out loud. I mean, Shakespeare wrote it as play, so it was meant to be out loud.
You have to interact with the students. Obviously, my students have benefited immensely, but I also stress to my students what they can give, and certainly, 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 they receive.
We're going to need partners for this activity. So, if you guys want to pair up.
I tell my students endlessly, this is not about you, that a good English curriculum...
Present a word.
If he that writ it had played Pyramus and hanged himself in Thisbe's garter, it would have been a fine tragedy.
The way the Akron U students made it, they made it fun. Like I had like my own person to help me like all day. It was nice to have.
Just someone by you.
If they noticed that you were struggling, they would just take you personally. They would just take you aside and try to help you along with things. And even if they weren't your tutor, they would come along and help you out anyway.
54.
I could play oracles rarely, or a part.
I'd be like, well, what did you read there? I don't know. Like, well, let's look at it. And, and then once we would look at it, and I'd say, well, you're saying this. Why would you say this to someone? And maybe I'm jealous. And then I'd be like, great. So then he'd do it again, and he'd have a little more emotion.
You could say, let him roar again, let him roar again.
What do we gain over the traditional approaches? What we gain is enthusiasm, greater understanding, and a real sense of doing it.
Thus die I, thus, now I am dead, now I am fled, my soul is in the sky.
By the last week of this, the students are doing it. They really, really are doing it. And there is some enthusiasm. You should see it. There's a moment where they go from not knowing to knowing. How do we know that they've learned to Shakespeare? Several ways. One of the ways is we watch them. And there's a difference between kids who say something or read something without comprehension and those who read it with comprehension. It's obvious to any intelligent observer.
Or rather do I not clench to tell you that.
In balance I seek thy love. Pass the flower here. Welcome, wanderer.
Aye, there it is.
This long, this rough cast, and this stoned out show.
We have another way of understanding what they've learned in the Shakespeare. In general, these kids pass a completely standard, normal, basic, multiple choice, fill in the blank kind of test on a Midsummer Night's Dream, the play we generally use. So we feel extremely confident these kids are learning. These kids will claim, and I think it's correct, that they've written more than they've ever written before.
We did a lot of writing so much and got better at it.
I think my writing has improved from my 10th grade year to my 11th grade year. When we got to write a paragraph or a short story, like I can write more and I understand things better.
Yeah, in this class I definitely did more writing, but it kind of helped me because before this I did not like to do writing at all.
They have done some revision. They have grown as writers. But I believe there are many, many, many more kids in this country that can be educated in a fashion that makes sense, that's interesting, that's dynamic, that will lead them on the path to lives that will be worthwhile, and to jobs and careers that will be not only interesting, but will be important for everyone.
What's wrong in education is that we're still doing it the same way. We do this in English. I don't know why they couldn't do it in math.
I think we should do it in every class.
I looked forward to going to 5th period every day just because you guys were there.
Are we the only project in an urban school? No way. There are thousands of urban teachers doing some really interesting work. What's the problem? No one notices it. Somebody needs to notice this. And then begin to reshape the urban school landscape through the teachers like Paulette that are doing amazing work. And so then we can really make a claim that these students have learned some things.